Hey, what's up you guys? You're watching Team APS, Paul here. So in the last video, we talked about the best cards from Flames of Destruction, but in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the more underrated cards that might slip the radar, but could be worth picking up. Let's hop in. So the first card is Iron Dragon Tiamaton. This is a really interesting monster. It's a level 4 Dark Dragon with 2000 attack, and you can't normal summon or set it. You have to special summon it from your hand if 3 or more cards are in the same column. Then when you summon it, it destroys everything in the column that it was in, and those zones can't be used. So this is actually kind of cool because its effect is a quick effect, which means that if your opponent is like making link monsters and they have stuff set behind it, once there are 3 cards in one column, you get to special summon this in the middle of their turn and blow everything up. That makes this extremely disruptive. Now, the problem, of course, is that, well, you can't really summon this on your own. You have to rely on your opponent to have something. It's a little bit worse than some of the Mech Knight cards in that regard, but I do think that it could be interesting. I mean, like, it kind of reminds me of things like Trap Eater, where you do want to be able to like summon it from your hand and punish your opponent in the process. The next card is Monster Reborn Reborn. Now, we've all known about this for a while. It's a normal spell. You target 3 monsters in your graveyard, your opponent chooses 1, you special summon it, and then you banish the rest. You can only use 1 of these per turn. So this is a sort of nerfed Monster Reborn, and I do feel like it's a bit unfortunate that Monster Reborn came off the ban list and then this card got released because it's like, kind of just overshadows it. However, there are decks that can use this. When I think of this card, I kind of think of the 60 card decks that use the Shiranui monsters and like Giant Rex, those types of cards where, you know, it doesn't matter if they get banished because they'll just summon themselves back. There are actually a handful of different monsters like that. So you can put your opponent in some pretty like tight situations with cards like Shiranui Solitaire and that type of thing, you know? Also, this card could just be helpful for decks that need easy ways to summon cards from the grave. If you run things like Lonefire Blossom, for example, you can quickly fill your grave up with monsters, and as long as you're trying to summon one Lonefire Blossom back, it doesn't matter if the other ones get banished. So we'll see if this card picks up. I mean, even if it's not used as a staple, it might be used in more niche purposes, maybe as a gimmick with cards like Necroface, for example. But either way, I do see it becoming worth like picking up, worth having copies of. It's actually a sneak peek promo, so pretty much everyone should have it. And yeah, I mean, Monster Reborn art is also really cool. Third card is Red Reboot. Now this is one that's actually been getting a lot of attention. When your opponent activates a trap, you negate the activation, and if you do, you set that card back face down. Then your opponent can set a trap directly from their deck. For the rest of the turn after this card resolves, your opponent can't activate any trap cards. And you can activate this trap from your hand by paying half of your life points. So this is really cool. It's kind of similar to Infinite Transience. I actually made videos earlier in the year talking about how I feel traps might make a comeback, and this might be how, with these trap cards that can be activated from your hand, making them similar to hand traps and not having to suffer the slowness of like setting the cards first. This card is pretty versatile because it lets you stop things like Evenly Matched, it lets you stop Trickstar Reincarnation. The problem is, this isn't a super trap heavy format outside of those 2 cards, so how useful this card really ends up being kind of just depends on where the game goes. Next is Nightmare Corruptor Ibli. Now this was a really interesting card the first time I read it a couple months back. When it's normal summoned, you get to target a link monster in your graveyard, special summon it linked to this card, you change its attack to 0 and negate all of its effects. Also, you can't special summon any monsters except for link monsters. Now if it gets sent to your graveyard, as in like linked off or any other way, you can special summon it to your opponent's field in defense position. So this is cool. It basically kind of acts like a Debris Dragon Junk Synchron type of card, which is really neat. Being able to bring back a link monster and have it point to her is going to be extremely useful not only in the Nightmare deck itself, but probably in a lot of other strategies too. And what I like about it is when you link it away and give it to your opponent, you can possibly lock them out of doing any other type of, you know, special summoning except with link monsters. So they'll have to link her away first, and that can really disrupt the strategy. It's a secret rare, I believe, so I don't know if it'll be super expensive, but it's probably worth having some copies of. I mean, like, this card could go anywhere, especially as we get more powerful link monsters in the future. And the last card is Secas Light. So this has been getting a lot of like interesting attention too. It's a normal spell, and if you don't have any other spell and trap cards in your graveyard, you get to draw 2 cards. Pot agreed, yay. But for the rest of the duel, after this card resolves, you can't activate any spell or trap cards or their effects, except for other copies of Secas Light. You can banish it from your graveyard, reveal a monster in your hand, and shuffle that monster into the deck. Then you get to draw a card. So this is an interesting card. I think it's really going to be powerful in decks that don't need to run a lot of spell and trap cards. And it can remove itself from the graveyard and stuff, and that's really cool, giving you additional draws. It's kind of like Pot of Desires, where you get a bit of an extreme cost attached to it, but it really does net you a lot of advantage. I know that like 60 card decks might be able to use this card effectively. Monster Mash decks in general come to mind. I think of even, decks like Burning Abyss possibly, or Mermails. So those are 5 cards from Flames of Destruction that I think might go a bit under the radar, but could definitely be worth picking up. I'd like to see where they go. And of course, let me know down in the comments what cards from Flames of Destruction are you interested in, particularly the ones that not everybody is talking about. So that's it for the video. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more of our new videos. We're gonna be doing a lot of openings for Flames of Destruction and maybe some deck profiles too, so hopefully you guys won't miss that. All right, that's gonna be it. I'll see you guys in the next one.